we have gone live. It is Mike Levin on Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. And I will make sure I see my mug come up here. There we are. And we're going to get started. There's actually quite a bit that's different since the last time I live streamed. I've been a very busy boy. Primarily in my Linux terminals, as you saw on my live streams from like a week ago, I'm now on Ubuntu 18.04. I changed the colors to much more familiar, and you'll see that when I start up a new terminal, even though I do drop myself into a Python VENV, a virtual environment, which normally loses color coding, I have gotten back the color coding. I took the step. I was feeling so good about that Ubuntu color coding. I felt bad about losing it when I went into my virtual ENVs, so I figured that out. That might be the subject of a future video. Additionally, when I CD into a location like my blog that is a GitHub repo, it tells me which branch I'm in of the GitHub repo. Here it says main. If I were to switch branches, that would change there. I'm almost always in main, so it's a little bit unnecessary, a little bit space wasteful on the prompt, but it's cool, and I would like to use branches more for variation. So I'm going to keep it there almost as a reminder to myself to try and do that. Now, my blog itself is looking a little bit more white than it did before. I broke the connection between this and the GitHub Pages theme, hacker theme that it was originally based on. I used the hacker theme, but I'm trying to break those dependencies and try and build stuff up on my own. So one of the effects is that it turned white when it lost the background image and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'm okay with that. Let me go back to some classic colors, those classic blue colors for links, purple for visited links, because it's related to the work I've been doing lately, which is different kinds of previous next arrows. If you go into my latest blog post, you'll see how it manifests here on the web, and it says category life stories. And the previous next arrows are different for top and bottom. The previous link is every little thing gets done, which if you look at the blog, that's that next one right here, every little thing gets done. But if you were to look at the bottom, it would say my formative years at all boys summer camp, science camp. So if we were to go back to this page and search for that, you can see that's down here. So the previous arrow at the bottom jumps right down to here. The previous arrow on the top jumps to here. And in that way, you can surf the entire blog with the arrows at the top, or based on what the blog post is a member of, you can surf the pages according to the category. 30-year anniversary of my dad. Hey, Dad, it's my dad. Do the right thing morally, spiritually, and technically. And you can go through and you can follow, my life story path or whatever, time to tell me. So there's going to be different categories, and you can tell the categories by right here. And I've been giving myself a little shortcut as I've been tagging things, because currently things aren't tagged. I will function F11, move that over here, and you can see my little shortcuts here as I've been tagging stuff. So another thing that's different, by the way, I'm gonna just cd ... clear and show you that my new way of starting to edit is to just type all, no dot extension, nothing. And now it has a few things loaded. It's got my personal journal. It's got my Mike Levin SEO. No, it's not Mike. It's mikelev.in. And it's got my vimrc, and it's only got those 3 currently loaded. Now, to show you a little bit how I'm doing that, you also see when I quit, it does this little git, commit, and push to make sure that some of my files, like my vimrc, is always backed up to GitHub. So since I'm encouraging myself to edit my vimrc so freely here on the third buffer, whenever I quit, I make sure that if I made changes, my vimrc is backed up to GitHub just like that through quitting. You might ask, how am I doing this? How am I just typing all? How's it controlling which files are loaded, how many are loaded? Well, I go into my sbin, and I've got a shortcut for that, sbin, and that'll drop me into user local sbin, right? And if you're wondering how I do those shortcuts, I've got a shortcut for that now, profile, which loads my .bash profile so you can see it. When I type sbin, it's just CDing into that location. It CDs to user local sbin. When I type profile, it's vimming my home /.bash profile. So that's how all that stuff is done. But if you look inside of my user local bin, you'll see I have a file named all, sudo vim all. You've got to sudo vim it if you want to be able to save it because it's in a privileged location. And I'm telling it default number of files to edit, that's 2. That's going to grab 2 files from out of this location I have here, sites.csv, that has all my sites listed, including their Google Analytics, if appropriate, whatever. And then I can just set this number to how many to load. It's loading my private profile, my private journal, my mikelev.in, and then it automatically adds at the end my vimrc, because it takes whatever journals I make it list and then adds the vimrc at the end. And then you can see I've got a few functions in here to do git pushes, right? One function to do the git push, another function here that makes sure that things show onto the command line in a timely fashion, and talk about that kind of stuff later. And then I copy a few files into location, and then I do the git actions to make sure that it's pushed, and then you see the done. So that's my new workflow now. No matter where I am, I could do it right from in here. I could do it from CD home. It really doesn't matter. I don't have to be in any special directory now, and I just type all, and I'm editing all my files. Now another nice thing is when I'm in one of the files that can be released on the release system, all I have to do is hit @p for publish, and it'll publish just that one. It used to have to run through all the different sites. Now it just does the one site I'm interested in, and there it is publishing it, doing those git pushes, the commits, the pushes, whatever. If there's new images, it makes sure it picks those up. And when this is done, I'll show you how I tag these things, and then I'll just jump into what I want to really do in this video, in this live stream, which is creating the category pages. So first I'll pull over the chat window in case anyone's there and wants to chat to me. No one's there at the time. That's fine. There was someone. Boo-hoo. There you go. That's pretty good. That shouldn't cover my face up, and should allow you to type to me, and gives me my shortcuts here. So now I just type @t for tag, although it's C for category, but I already have those low number ones used for these things. And I look at what type of thing it is. I want to blow up on YouTube. I want to blow up on YouTube. And I'm talking about thinking it through. This is kind of like my life story. So I'll just type @a, and then I'll do @t again, and it'll jump to the next untagged one. And this is what do you have? It's just technology and life observations @c, @t, learning Linux number 2, run it from the CLI. Linux playgrounds, because learning Linux is part of the Linux playground. So that's @e, @t, and I won't do too many more of these. This is another learning Linux @e, @t, go for connecting the dots. Show Vim typing. This is technology and life observations. So that's at C. All right. And I could generate that with at P, and it just spits them out. And you think I might be using some fancy type thing. I'm just sitting on top of the GitHub Pages system, which sits on top of the Jekyll system. And it's a very light touch. My scripts that do all this, the stuff that's running all this, is now all under a repo called Skite, S-K-I-T-E. And it's got two files in there, Skite and Slice. This used to be a separate thing. This used to be under Blog Slicer. And I pulled it over here so that they're all under the same repo and I can edit them in the same location. And this is the one from the old system from Blog Slicer, which did a few more things like writing out a file, which is what I'm going to be picking up here for this video. I believe I wrote out at some point a blog.md file, I think. Yeah, there we go. See, with open, and it just writes it out. So what I'm going to be doing here is very much along these lines, but instead of writing out a blog.md, I'm going to write out one for each category that's encountered. And the categories that are encountered are going to be found somewhere up here. Every time I find maybe has a, so not everything has a title, so I accommodate for things when they have titles and they don't have titles. Ah, that's the old one. That's why I'm not seeing what I was expecting to see. So over here, near the logic that has a maybe, because it maybe has a title, and that's dealt with here. There's also now a could be, because it could have a category. And when it does, it's going to match here if the first 8 characters are the word category. In the third line of the table that's captured for the blog post, even though it says 2, it's a 0-based index, so it's the third line down. We know we have a category, and this would be a great place to add it to a set of categories. We want to use a set so that it naturally dedupes. And so outside the loop, at the same place where we have a table, and by the way, I'll just run this here. Everything that I have here can be run externally. You see it generating the files here that run externally. Even though it says converted these, those become skite.py, slice.py. In this location, ls. So you'll see another directory called skite, cd skite. It's very typical when you're making a package for release in PyPy or pip installable package, to have the repo name and then a directory underneath of it with the same name as the repo name, and that's where you have your package files. So skite.ipynb becomes slice, or skite.py, and then the slice.ipynb becomes slice.py. You see, these are the packages, so that when I use the keyboard shortcut from inside Vim, it's using that version. And when I'm here in Jupyter, I can still run it. And I give it defaults. I give it default things to use. I'll set it to the right site. For this case, mikelev.in. Mike Levin is the blog title, I guess. Mike Levin's blog. And I could run that from in here, and that'll produce that output, show 148 entries. And this is where I can now do a little bit of debugging. Everything is kept live, and every time I want to run it for real, I just export it doing this. That exports those files, and then I can just hop over to here and then do it from here, and you can see the same output. So we go to where that table is created that we're going to use again later. Now we're going to say categories and make sure I don't use that elsewhere. 2 of 2, that's not good. Oh, I already do a categories table up here for a counter. I have to watch that. Or have I used it? I haven't used it. See, it's only used once. I was thinking along these lines. I was getting ready to do this before. So it doesn't belong up there for a counter the way I was going to use it. It belongs down here. And asks me to overwrite it because some of that stuff I do at the bottom here changes the file, changes the IPYNB file on the drive for better living inside of GitHub or Git and GitHub. It cuts down the noisiness of the repos because notebooks can create a lot of unnecessary changes in a repo. So NBDev has some tools to help you cut that down. So I just put in categories equals empty. In fact, I don't want an empty list. I want a set. And we're going to do categories.add instead of categories.append. If it were list, that'll do a natural deduping. And every time we have a real category here, because this is the match, we do categories.add. And that's interesting. I want the opposite of this. I want from 8 characters in to the end. And then I can just print it at the end under entries. This is interesting. Print categories. I can just run that now. This is the benefit of keeping this stuff kind of live inside of a notebook, right? It's just a lot better way to debug than other places. Some might say VS Code. I got to mention VS Code at this point. Yeah, sure, I guess, maybe, if you want to be Microsoft sheep. This is free and open source. You should read about the Jupyter Foundation and their goals and mission. So I need to chop off 2 more characters. So instead of starting at 8, I start at 10. Assuming I'll never, leave out the space after category colon. And there it is. Here is a deduped list of the categories that have been found. Now there is one empty in there, and so the kind of stuff we can do is like set comprehension. X for X in, same thing, right? But if X, that's a natural filter, and then we can just set it back to itself. That's a way to get out spaces. There's probably some other way, but I've been into all these comprehensions lately. So we can do that sort of at the end before we print categories. And now when we run that, and we go down here and look, you will see it doesn't have that extra space in there, so that's good. All right, so we've got a set of all the categories that appear in my blog, and for each one, I will just want to output a file. That's going to be the starting point, and I can do that here. I can just use a thing here, and then I'll merge it up so it becomes part of the larger thing. And we were already looking at that here, and I want to make sure I understand our file location. See, we have all this lovely stuff here, and I think I'm sitting on top of something called site. I'm not sure. No, it's not. Let's take a look at what my path names are. Oh, I've just got a folder name. So we just drop it right there in the folder name. We hope we don't write over something else by the exact same name because it's the logical place to put this stuff. So we're going to need that. And then we're going to need the code that was in here. It was just a nice little context manager out file. And I also have something called Slugify that I believe I'm using here. Yeah, Slugify. So let's do a little bit of slugifying for each thing in, I'll just comment, I'll just go beneath it because we can always combine them together for category in categories, print category, print slugify category. See, now they're all nice file names. And we pick up that context manager I was just on top of. I lost it from my thing. And we'll do a before and after. It's kind of tricky to do a before and after in such a big location. I just got a lot of stuff in this location. I'll filter it somehow to make sure that you know there are currently nothing by those conflicting names. I'll just put cat in the word, right? I'll just make this into a F string. Add cat. Add MD because it's going to be markdown. So those are some pretty good file names. Now we can do a ls star hyphen cat.md. There's nothing there. So this is a nice before and after, right? No such file or directory. And so now I use that lovely context manager stuff there. And we're going to want to construct the file name. So it's going to be cat file equals, and we're going to use F strings. This is a good place for an F string. Part of the F string is going to be the folder name of where it's going to live. And that says from the directory above where I am. That's not the best for me. I guess I have CD'd into a location, so I'm gonna think that through for a second with open from where this is running. This is going to be running in a think y .. slash. Because of the context of where this is running from when I CD into this location. Okay, think. I am going to leave that out for a moment. I think that is, yeah, we're running inside this directory. So I'm going to, for a moment, let's see, okay, so what are the inputs that we've received here? Because we can see the argument strings. There's path. Path is interesting, path. args.path. Folder name is args.path, right? So path is fed in. Blog title, blog slug author. That's what we have to work with, so that's what we're going to work with. These files might end up in a weird location, but I'm going to go with it for now. So there is that location. And then there is the file name that is mostly constructed here. We get rid of the print that's around it. We pick up this portion of it, pick up the portion of it that belongs inside an F string, and we put that inside that F string. And I'm probably making a lot to do about nothing, because this is assuming that those directories are directory level up and over, which is a good assumption for the way I organize files. So I might clean it up for more absolute paths later. I already see the issue. So now this does not even need to be an F string now. This is just right open that. And that is going to put a file in location for each of those. There they are. There they are. But there's not going to be anything in them because I just wrote out basically an empty file. What did I put inside of it? With open right lines index page. So it's got the whole blog index in there. Now I think I'm going to wrap up here because that got us pretty far along. And I've got a few more things I need to do early this morning. So I'm going to call this part 1 of this. And that was some pretty darn good progress there. You see where we're going with this. And all I'm going to have to do is pick up some of the logic from the arrow keys. So those arrows are in CD assets, ls, cd, css, ls. Nope, cd dot dot. Oh yeah, it's not in assets, it's in layouts. ls, vim post, and post.html is where the arrows are. And so I have this lovely logic about for category and page categories, and I'll be able to lift that up in a moment and turn this into those category pages, the proper content of that location. So that's where I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for joining me. Hope to stream to you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell.